The UN at 70, a new commitment to action, was the thrust of the recently concluded 70th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, United States. Nigeria was represented at the highest level by the President Muhammadu Buhari. To that extent, the diaspora this week will be reflecting on Nigeria's performance at the 70th session of the United Nations General Assembly, with interest on issues of HIV/AIDS, conflicts, terrorism, small arms and light weapons, climate change, corruption, and the economy, as well as Sustainable Development Goals 17, as endorsed by over 190 world leaders. That's not all. We also have our Diasporan of the Week. News and your mails. Welcome to the Diaspora. I am Gabriel Odu. Let's begin with President Muhammadu Buhari's address at the 70th General Assembly, considered timely, rich in content and delivery.
Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency, President of the General Assembly, Your Excellency, Deputy Secretary General, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the declaration that we have adopted today testifies to the urgency and the necessity for action by all of us. It is not for want of commitment that previous initiatives have failed or could not be fully realized. What seemed to be lacking in the past were political will and the required global partnership to pursue and implement the programs to which we committed ourselves. It enjoys global consensus. We have agreed to deliver as one and to leave no one behind. This is a promise worth keeping. We have agreed to create viable partnerships and to adopt the means of implementation for the goals and targets of the Global Sustainable Development Agenda in all three dimensions, namely economic, social, and environmental. The post-2015 Development Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, together with Addis Ababa Action Agenda that we adopted in July 2015, offer us a unique opportunity to address the unfinished business of the Millennium Development Goals. They also provide the basis for a new set of global development priorities to usher in a peaceful and prosperous world. Since the year 2000, we have witnessed a number of areas in which progress has been made in meeting our commitments. Respect for human rights and accountability for gross violations are now at the forefront of most major international initiatives. National efforts have been exerted to meet the MDGs and rescue millions of people from the clutches of extreme poverty and want. Illnesses such as polio, tuberculosis, and malaria are being systematically attacked and eliminated from our countries. Maternal and child mortality, as well as mother-to-child transmission of diseases such as HIV/AIDS, are high on our national agendas. By concerted effort of the world community, Ebola in West Africa was contained, then overcome. The prospect of wars and conflicts between and among states have for the first time in human memory been considerably reduced. Threats to international peace and security are now posed more by non-state actors, with terrorist groups posing the more deadly threat by drawing in national armed forces in neighboring conflicts. The war against terror is now the most significant effort that we are all called upon to prosecute in unison and with renewed determination and vigor. We must not lose sight of the fact or diminish the threat that poverty poses a serious threat to global development. If we are truly committed to leaving no one behind, we must then translate rhetoric into action and fight poverty on a global scale. Illiteracy, hunger, and diseases are associated with evils that go hand in hand with poverty. We must exert all efforts in order to eliminate these ills from our midst by 2030, as the declaration loudly proclaims. The bottom billion that has neither safety nets nor social protection needs to be rescued from their perpetual state of hopelessness, fear, and indignity. Now that it has fallen on our shoulders to discharge this responsibility, we should do so with the enthusiasm and commitment that is worthy of the cause. We must create viable partnerships that bring together national, regional, and global actors with shared objectives to carry this forward. We must also create the enabling environment for executing this global agenda by developing the relevant framework for working with different types of partners and constituencies that recognize the contributions of civil society, religious and cultural bodies, private sector, academia, and most importantly, government. Just as the relative success of the MDGs was underpinned by national ownership, the post-2015 and the SDGs frameworks must also be guided by national priorities and ownership. Domestic resources mobilization, supplemented by improved terms of trade between industrial and developing economies, should drive the implementation process in both streams. The facilitation of remittances by migrant and overseas workers, as well as efficient tax collection, are needed as complementary sources of financing for development. Your Excellency, mindful of this, I wish to reiterate Nigeria's commitment to the pursuit of transparent and accountable fiscal and economic management. We are taking measures to improve and streamline internal generation of revenue and to plug all loopholes that have led to illicit capital flight from Nigeria. We are also putting in place mechanisms to prevent oil theft and other criminal practices that are detrimental to our economy. We are taking concrete steps to address present environmental challenges, especially in cleaning up degraded ecosystems caused by oil spillage, land erosion, desertification, and floods. The threat posed by climate change is real and present in our country. It is my hope that as we embark on this renewed journey, we will match our words with deeds, so that 2030, when this assembly will meet, the people of all races and creed will say that we have kept faith with each other. Your Excellencies, I thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, let's hear from the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bulus Lolo.
He took part at the Leaders' Summit convened by both the United States government and the United Nations to rub minds on how to counter violent extremism. Again, he spoke and the world listened, articulating Nigeria's views, calling for support where necessary, and also assuring that Nigeria will not stand by as terrorists ravage our country. Terrorism is not limited to Nigeria. It is a global phenomenon. As such, Nigeria alone cannot deal with terrorism. It has to be a joint effort between Nigeria and other countries. And President Buhari succeeded in conveying this message, and I must say it was very well received. He met with the kings of Spain and the king of Jordan. He also met with the president of China, president of South Korea, amongst others. And he met some private sector players. And in all of these, President Buhari conveyed a simple message that Nigeria is facing the challenge of Boko Haram, but he and his government have what it takes to win the battle against Boko Haram. They will bring renewed commitment. They will bring a strategy that combines a military approach with a soft approach, so as to win the minds and souls of the impressionable people that Boko Haram is deceiving. And with the support of the international community through intelligence sharing, through training and retraining of our armed forces, together with mobilization of requisite financial support for resettlement and rehabilitation, definitely and certainly the battle will be won. This he did in all the bilateral meetings. King of Spain, who initiated the meeting with the president, pledged support. So did the King of Jordan. The presidents of China and South Korea that I mentioned equally pledged their support, assuring that they are looking for inroads into the Nigerian economy. The private sector players included Bill Gates, who came, former President Clinton, former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, and only this afternoon too, he met representatives of the Open Society Foundation led by George Soros, who sent the CEO of that organization, as well as the MacArthur Foundation. And the latter two announced that they had set aside $5 million specifically for government to use in its anti-corruption campaign. And if government also decides, they could channel that money into judicial reforms. But they will not stop at that, they said. They are waiting on government to come up with more areas if there is the need, and to come up and tell the foundations what specifically we would want the foundations to do. This is a clear indication that the president has been well received and is continuing to enjoy tremendous goodwill at home and abroad. It remains for us as Nigerians to join hands with him, give him every support that he needs, so that we will be on our feet as a country that is well endowed, a country that has the potential, but which potential has not been fully realized. So it's hopeful that going back after the 70th anniversary celebration, there will be a renewed vigor in our activities. Our foreign policy will continue to remain robust, and that Nigeria will also be very active in these activities. It is our duty to win investments for Nigeria by advertising the very best there is in the country, including investment opportunities, incentives that government provides, and assuring investors that when they come into Nigeria, their investments are safe. Of course, we do this in collaboration and partnership with other agencies of government. I'm referring here to the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, as well as the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. But when it comes to managing foreign relations, the ministry is in the forefront. by doing what we are intended to do and mandated to do, the ministry does not expect that we should be paid back in monetary terms. No. If we are able to win investments into Nigeria, it will be to the benefit of us all, because we are first and foremost Nigerians. If we project the right image of Nigeria abroad, that is our duty. And if we attend to the welfare of Nigerians, again, it is our core duty.
Nigeria's Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Usman Sarki, believes that Nigeria had an excellent and outstanding performance.
World leaders assembled at the United Nations to adopt the post-2015 development agenda embodied in the Sustainable Development Goals, that is the Agenda 2030. During that event, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari addressed the world. He reiterated the importance of partnership, global partnership in development. And actually, he highlighted certain key areas that the world should pay attention to. Firstly, he emphasized the need, in fact, the necessity of fighting poverty, to eradicate poverty and inequality. And also, he emphasized the importance of paying attention to the conditions of youth all around the world, empowerment of young people, employment generation, their education opportunities, and the great potential that they hold for the development of the world. The issue of corruption also was very, very seriously highlighted during those meetings in view of the damage that corruption has been doing to the body politic of nations and the repatriation of illicit flow of funds that have left our continent, our countries, to be repatriated for the development of our country. Of course, Mr. President was mindful also of the need for internally generated revenue to be generated and to be mainstream towards development. So the highlight in terms of the adoption of the high-level declaration on post-2015 development agenda was very important.
If you're just joining us, this is the Diaspora on the NTA. There's more to come. Don't go away.
NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Glad to know that you are still there. Let's meet Samuel Adeusi, a lawyer and new chairman, Board of Trustees, NIDO's America.
I started in NIDO as a president of a DC chapter in 2010. I joined NIDO in 2006. I helped to draft the bylaws for NIDO, for NIDO Americas, and I actually helped in bringing together various interests and forwarding and encouraging certain programs that NIDO is actually well known for today. One of those will be, encouraging the NIDO board, when I was still the president of the chapter, to focus on two programs, and one of them was the Diaspora Commission Bill, and the other one was the Voting Rights for Nigeria. Currently, NIDO worldwide has never been more united in its goal. Nearly every week or every other week we have Skype meetings where we discuss strategies. And to give you an example of how united we were, when President Buhari was in the US visiting, NIDO was the one who actually brought all the other community organizations together to meet the president. We presented it to him at that particular time, and the president, I will give him credit for that. He said that he will sign the bill as soon as certain things are put in place. I'm talking about the Diaspora Commission bill. He said he will sign the bill as soon as he gets down to it. So we don't have any issues with that. And to tell you how another strategy we use, when he visited France, NIDO Europe, one of our chairman for the continental Europe actually went to him, presented to him the same request that NIDO Americas presented to him.
Right.
And he gave the same answer. So, but not apart from that, we have, various of, friends apart from the NIDO Worldwide that we have actually gotten a private and a commitment from the president himself. We know that he's a man of his words, and he cannot come to America, come to Europe, give his assurance that he will pass this bill. We are very, very sure that he will do so. The other thing was that we know that the current 8th Assembly, National Assembly, is actually also working on removing some technical details and working out a compromise, a bill that will be acceptable to both houses so that it can now be forwarded to the president for his assent. That is where we are right now.
New administration on ground. Briefly, what perspective are you looking at?
Well, when I believe that the campaign was actually done on mantra of change, we in the diaspora are very, very keen on seeing that change brought to the life of, I'm talking about majority of Nigerians across the board. We are talking about change in attitude. We are talking about change in outlook. We are talking about change in how we as Nigerians actually live together, where you don't have somebody saying, oh, he's an Igbo, or he's a Yoruba man, he's an Hausa. No, we want, we are hoping for that change where actually all of us live together as brothers and actually have all hands on deck.
Now to our diasporan of the week. She is only 28 years old, but a professor of political science and global affairs, Rutgers University, New Jersey, United States. I present to you Yetunde Odukpesan Omede.
I'm also the author of a new published book called The Young Women's Guide. I'm the founder of Young Women's Guide, which is an organization that provides leadership development for young women all around the world. Young Women's Guide basically is a book about giving young women a guide to self-empowerment, giving young women a guide to leadership. It basically has all the tips and the tools of how to be a young woman today, how to be a successful one. I talk about everything about having a vision. I talk about everything about knowing your worth and having mentors, having the right type of friends and people to associate with to take you to the next level in life. And a lot of the advice that I received as a young woman is the same thing that I want to tell other young women: never to give up, to continue to excel, to take your education very seriously, and most importantly, to be a well-rounded individual, a well-rounded young woman. Because the journey of womanhood is not easy, and the journey of womanhood is something where other women need advice and they need that guidance, and this is what this book entails.
Is it talking about equality too?
Of course it talks about equality. Of course, a man can buy this, but he can buy this for his daughter, his wife, his nieces. So definitely we talk about equality. It's a definitely important issue. I think when it comes to gender balance and it comes to equality, we cannot focus on women issues without bringing men into the discussion. Right. So it's extremely important if we talk about issues about domestic violence or sexual health and reproduction. We have to bring men into this conversation and understand that in order to push women issues forward, we have to bring men at the table. I founded Young Women's Guide for young women who needed guidance, who wanted, how do I become successful? How do I model after other women who have, made strides in their careers? Young women, they just don't wake up overnight and say, I'm a leader. They need to be groomed, and there's a process of leadership. So in Young Women's Guide, which I've traveled to Nigeria, I've held leadership symposiums and leadership conferences in Nigeria on leadership development for young women. We're training them, especially here in the United States. I have them all the time. We're training young women to be leaders. We're giving them the tips and tools at an early stage.
Some diaspora news now with Chimdima Ndubisi on the celebration of Nigeria at 55.
It was a memorable event at the Nigerian High Commission in Sierra Leone as the High Commissioner, Mrs. Gladys Quist Adebi, gathered Nigerian citizens in that land as well as the diplomatic community to be part of Nigeria's 55th independence anniversary. The High Commissioner noted that at 55, Nigeria can boast of meaningful development in different sectors of the economy and peace in its polity as exemplified in the last general election, rated by international observers as the most peaceful, and a smooth democratic transition, an example African countries and the world at large should emulate.
This year's celebration is unique because it represents an important milestone in Nigeria's narrative. We are equally developing new frameworks for domestic mobilization of resources, while at the same time curbing corruption and plugging holes in the system that in the past provided avenues for capital flights.
The need for African countries to unite in the fight against terrorism, which is now a global challenge, was re-emphasized.
Defeating Boko Haram and finding a durable solution to the underlying causes of insecurities in Nigeria remains a priority of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration.
The occasion served as an avenue for showcasing the cordiality that exists between Nigeria and Sierra Leone.
Nigeria's spirit of being a brother's keeper is nowhere as apparent as in Sierra Leone, where she continues to make significant contributions in the defense, security, economy, education, and health sectors, amongst others.
Let me, on behalf of His Excellency, President Dr. Ernest Bai Koroma, and the government of people of Sierra Leone, express our thanks and appreciation to the government and people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for their continued moral and material support during the peak period of the devastating Ebola outbreak in our country.
After the cutting of cake and toast, guests were treated to mouth-watering Nigerian and continental dishes.
Our email remains diaspora@yahoo.com or text only to +234 8033 11 4000. That's it for this week. Bye.